There is one skill that wins the really big money in live low-stakes poker. And I'm not talking about thin value betting or bluffing or knowing when to fold on the river. It is something that goes much deeper than that. It is the one skill that truly separates the crushers from the mere winners and the losers. So in today's video, you will learn what this magical mystery skill actually is and how you can use it to boost your bankroll. And I'll show you, using one of my most painful poker memories, how I went from being clueless and leaving the card room with a broken ego to taking home the big pots. I vividly remember the biggest pot in big blinds I've ever lost in my life. It was in 2018 when I thought I had figured out live poker. Spoiler alert, I really hadn't. The Hippodrome in London, where I used to play most of my hours at the time, introduced a new deep stack format. The blinds were still 1-2, but you could buy in with as much money as you wanted. So naturally, in my I'm a crusher mode, I bought in for £1,000, aka 500 big blinds. I sat down and after half an hour, I had King Queen of Spades, a nice suited Broadway. A guy in the hijack, who also had £1,000 in front of him, raised to £10 and I 3-bet to £35 on the button, but he now 4-bet to £120. Normally, I'd consider folding this hand, but because we were so deep and I had position, I thought I'd call, so I did. The flop comes Jack of Spades, 9 of Spades, Deuce of Hearts. Great flop for me, I thought, confidently, like a man walking into a trap wearing a blindfold. The guy c-bet for around half pot. At this point, I just called. There was almost £500 in the middle, and we had around £750 behind when the 7 of Spades came on the turn. Bingo! I got him now, I thought to myself. And to my excitement, he now bets £300, and I can't raise all in fast enough, only to get snap called. As the river was an inconsequential 4 of diamonds, we both turned over our cards and he showed ace-10 of spades for the absolute nuts. And there it was. I had just lost 500 big blinds. Poof, gone, my entire stack. I ended up that session with a loss of £2,104 in 7 hours. It was the most brutal day of poker I've ever had. So what happened in this ominous hand? Did I get cooler? Well, I definitely got unlucky that I had the second nut flush and he had the nut flush. If we had played in a tournament and were 40 big blinds deep, this would definitely be considered a cooler. In a 100 big blinds deep cash game, you could still kind of say this is fine. But here, we were 500 big blinds deep, and I butchered this hand so badly that even the deck felt sorry for me. In a minute, I'm going to show you how I should have played this hand, but first, let's now talk about the skill that wins all the money in live poker, unless you mean 2018, in which case not having it sets your bankroll on fire. It is deep stack play. When the stacks get deep, both the profit and the losses get big as well. So if you regularly find yourself playing in games where most players have more than 200 big blinds in front of them, you need to have good deep stack skills. Otherwise, the losses will compound. If you make a mistake when you're 20 big blinds deep, you only lose peanuts. But when you have 500 bigs in front of you, this could be the money for your rent or mortgage. So let's see how I should have played the hand with King Queen suited. I still think that 3-betting the hand in position is absolutely fine, but the big mistake that I made was to call his 4-bet. That's where the wheels fell off really. It's not even the fact that he made it almost 4 times my raise. The bigger issue is that I can be dominated in this spot. If the flop comes, say, King 6-6, and villain keeps piling money into the pot, I am in a really tough spot. And King Queen has an additional problem. It almost never makes the nuts. It usually makes the second nut flush, like in this example, and even on a board like King Queen Queen, there is always a chance in a 4-bet pot that villain has a bigger boat with pocket kings. That's why one of the most important skills in deep stack games is to recognize which hands to play pre-flop. Hands that can make the nuts or close to it. What are these? suited aces, and to some extent pocket pairs. Suited aces will always draw to the nut flush, so I would rather have ace-4 suited than ace-jack offsuit when super deep. The pairs will not always be the nuts, but even when you're 200 big blinds deep, it is okay to go broke with middle set. This changes when you are even deeper though. Suited aces are still great, in fact they are even better now. But pairs are now dangerous, especially smaller ones. Let's look at this example a student of mine once played. A player in early position raised to 15 in a 1-2 game where both villain and our hero had around $1,000 in front of them. My student called with pocket fives in the cutoff and the big blind also called. The flop came king 5 deuce, the original raiser c-bet, my student raised, the big blind folded and the original raiser re-raised now. My student called. The turn was a jack and now the original raiser bet again, my student called again. The river was an ace, villain jammed. My student snap called. Villain unsurprisingly showed down pocket kings. As I said, for up to 200 big blinds it is okay to go broke with a set against another set. But when you're playing super deep stack like in this example, small and medium pocket pairs can be really dangerous. One other adjustment you need to make when deep is how you handle 3-bets. If your opponent is a strong, aggressive player, calling with small pocket pairs or speculative hands can be risky as they will apply constant pressure. However, against tight opponents who only 3-bet big pairs like jacks, queens, kings and aces and ace-king, calling with small pairs becomes much more profitable. These are the players who will struggle the most in deep stack situations because they only know how to play one way, tight and predictable. But again, if you flop bottom set and they are the ones making big bets on every street, you have to be careful. But there is one other way how you can make the big bucks in deep stack games. This is the most important skill that the best pros have. Whenever you see one of the really good vloggers out there like GazyB, Ben Badbeat or Margoon stack lots of chips, it is usually because of this one skill. Here's a hand I played recently where I put this into practice. A very tight player raised to 12 in a 1-3 game. The hijack, who is not a great player, called and I called behind with ace-4 of diamonds. The big blind also called. I had around 340 big blinds in front of me, the original raiser and the big blind covered me. We went 4 ways to a flop of 9-4 deuce with 2 diamonds, giving me middle pair and the nut flush draw. The original raiser c-bet to only 15, the next player to act folded. I decided to just call here and take my equity, the big blind folded as well. The turn was an offsuit jack and villain now bet 50. I raised to 175, he called. The river was an offsuit 7. He checked to me and I shoved my remaining stack of around 500 into the pot of 430. He tanked for a while and then folded his pocket queens face up. It was a risky move on my side, but a profitable one against tight players who don't feel comfortable calling down an overbet with just a pair when we are so deep. Crushers know how to exploit tight players by playing ultra aggressive and putting their entire stack at risk. This strategy requires experience and a strong stomach, but it is extremely profitable once you master it. Deep stack poker is where the biggest edges appear for skilled players who understand post-flop play. Nits and overly tight players struggle in these situations because they are unwilling to adapt their strategy. They'll play solid poker for hours until they finally get stacked when they can't fold an overpair against your disguised straight or set. If you understand these concepts and adjust your play accordingly, you'll be the one raking in those massive pots while your opponents wonder how you keep getting lucky. But most of the time you won't be playing super deep stack poker, but maybe only 150 big blinds deep against your typical recreational player at a 1-2 or 1-3 table. There are some interesting exploits you can use in those games. In this video here you will find out what they are and how they can boost your bankroll.